Fine.
And there we are. And hi there, I'm here today. Well, first thing, we got the clown background. Our guest today, though, is Mercedez Lucke Benedict. And I always like that same that Mercedes name. It always made me think of the Mercedes Rose. It's a nice name. I mean, in a second, I'll have Mercedes describe herself. I mean, instead of me putting a label on you, I'll have you label yourself. But we'll have to explain the background today. Now, Mercedes said it was okay. This is my clown background I've been working on for my Cat's the Clown thing instead of the OSH radio background. And so today we're kind of in a circus. Okay, so Mercedes, glad to have you with us. I think a couple months ago you interviewed me on your show, and now we're doing the reverse. And why don't you tell people about? I know you're into a whole bunch of stuff. Tell us about you and who you are.
Well, first of all, I'm happy to be here. It's very exciting. I'm really excited to talk with you. Right now, you might call me like a filmmaker in a way. I'm creating a documentary about the circumstances and the research that happened on the property that I am actually living on and have lived on. And what's interesting is today I was looking on Facebook and I saw that this was the date I actually moved here 9 years ago.
So it's an anniversary for you then.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that this is the date that I'm actually talking about when I moved here 9 years ago. Before that, before I started this adventure, I was an actress and singer and songwriter, and that's been a lot of my life. We moved around Dallas, California. I'm born and raised in Dallas, Texas. So a lot of my acting, and I went to schooling there and got an agent there in Texas, in Dallas, Texas. And then we moved to Arizona. And before that, we were in California. This is another, my marriage before the marriage I'm in now. So we did a lot of things, hence the name Mercedez Lucke. That's what we were talking about, like the Lucky name. That was my name prior, when I did a lot of the acting and singing and theatrical stuff and television stuff. So when I got married to Joe, I took on his name as Lucke Benedict. So now you'll find me as Lucke Benedict. Well, kind of an interesting thing happened while I was wanting, having a band and being a singer and, actress. I was in a car accident that changed my life forever. And I almost died. I couldn't walk, I could move. Well, it ended up that this is a transition into a different type of life for me, where I became an actual therapist that worked with people with pain. And a part of that was healing myself from the pain. And it changed my life and it put me into a different path where I worked for a world-renowned doctor, Dr. Steven Swidler, for his office for over 15 years as their body jaw alignment pain therapist. So during the pandemic, my office was shut down, and it was a whole year. Actually, I didn't go back to work for the doctor for 2 years. And yeah, so what happened in that time frame is like I believe God put me back on the other path. So the other path was I became someone, I learned how to edit. I learned how to do film production while I was home, while I was there. So I studied for 2 years. And while I was doing that, we were in the midst of a paranormal battle between good and evil, really, with the property, with the land, with spirits, with the stuff that was on the land. And it was a 9-year research for me when I came here. Pretty much when I came here, things started happening. And that's why even on the first day, I actually did move in here, things started happening on the first day. And up to then, I'd been coming here to this property for a little while, and really nothing had been happening because I hadn't been here too much. but it was the day that I actually moved in today, 9 years ago, that things actually started showing up and really becoming an issue. And so it was through that time, through this 9 years, that myself and my husband as well, we reached out to all types of people, shamans, medicine men, I mean, just everybody to come and help us on this property. And it ended up being, in the end, we didn't move, we didn't leave. We ended up having a certain person come out, and actually didn't come out, but we got an exorcism done, X3 deliverances, and it was life-changing. It was life-changing. And that was in 2021. So, since 2021, life has been very, very interesting. I mean, like a whole new blooming of life. Like life came together. Finally, life is better. Life is really good. And so that's why I am making this documentary. I've actually made it. That's just done. So,
Yeah, that's what we've just been talking about. You said just a couple more scenes you'd like to put in it, but it's a product now. The product will be moved. So if there's anybody reading this that, wants to, promote it and put it out there, let us know.
Yeah, what I'm looking for right now is distribution. Everything I do, I pretty much, every single thing I do, I feel like I have to pray, and I ask for the guidance of God to help me know which steps I'm supposed to do. So basically everything in that documentary is, from me doing prayers and trying to make sure everything is correct and in there, and even to the people that are in there. So yeah, we have a couple of more technical things that we need to do it's a 3-part series, and it's a 3-part series in a larger series, which I call Sacred Land, Arizona. Sacred Land, Arizona is what I'm kind of, it's the basis of what I believe that this land is here, which is extremely sacred. We are on an amazing piece of property. And, through this journey, I've come to find out the secrets that were buried. And it's, when you start from start to finish and you see what it really was, or what actually happened by uncovering the mysteries of it, I feel really good. I feel really good about what has happened. I feel complete. I feel a great deal of joy knowing that there are certain things that I found out and discovered that are real. It's why it is so sacred here. And so then the Sacred Land, Arizona is going to be, there'll be other ones, like part of the journey. The main thing that Shadows of the Desert, that's the one that's finished now, is the 3-part series.
It's going to be a trilogy.
Yeah. So that one is so big. I just had a hard time putting it all in one. I mean, I could literally put it all in one, and maybe I will someday, but it was so much. There's so much, John. There's so much to the story.
I think it's for actually, as far as getting things out to people, sometimes it's better to give it to them in progressing chunks instead of all at once. So I think the trilogies are always nice. I mean, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so too, because that's when I first was, putting it all together, because like I said, this is really my first time. I mean, I had spent a year and a half or 2 years doing a lot of little projects, or really honing what I can do. A lot of music videos. It was fascinating. I know you love music, and we talked music before, but for me to be able to go and the songs that I wrote years ago, or the songs that I'm actually writing right now, and for me to be the one that is in charge of production, which I wasn't before. Somebody else had to do that. In Dallas, we had to hire people to do that. So a funny thing happened, the internet changed all of us. We're like, we talked about this before. we can do so much on our phones, and we just have so much access that we didn't have before. That, I mean, I literally, studied, learned how to do it, but I make my own music videos now. And it's amazing to be able to take a song that I wrote 20 years ago and redo it now in my vision, my way, what I always wanted. And also the new songs that I'm creating as a singer-songwriter in the past, but I've always kept my singing up. And now I've got, a good collection of brand new songs that I love, but I'm also, that I've written and I love, and I'm creating music videos on those, which you can find when you look up my name under music. They're on all the sites that music is on, like Amazon, and I always Spotify, and all the ones that you can listen to music on, you can find my music now. And so it's really, really, really great. It's really exciting to be able to come full circle and be the one in charge when I always had to give somebody else that.
That is a nice thing. And the other thing that I've learned, and I don't know if we talked about this before, I did a TV show hosting cartoons for 7 years on a local station. And before that, I attempted to do a show that was doing the horror movies. When I came back around, the channel said they wanted the cartoons because people would do the horror movie stuff. The cartoons, they weren't doing like the old days. But originally, I had a team of people working on it with me. And I found with the team, it became almost impossible to get things done. And if I learned it myself then and did it, you know what? You know who had control over it getting done? It was me. I didn't have to wait for this person to do this and this and this and help me. And it was just horrible.
Yeah.
And then, as you said about the music, I've been nominated twice for Grammys, but I'll be honest, I write the lyrics mostly. I'm not a great singer, and I'm not a great musician. I do put some stuff out because I try to get stuff out a little bit more how I see it, although I don't get the sound I want. There's only one song out there that you can listen to that is good, but it's how I want it to be. But I worked with a gentleman, very famous gentleman, I won't say who right here, but he would change my lyrics. I mean, sometimes he'd even say 25%, but as the artist writing it, you kind of hope to hear it as you visualize it. But what happens is you do something and somebody else takes it and they might not even get what you mean. I mean, I had a song that was, I love you, but you have to get the hell out of my way. And really the song was about my dog. But I equate it to kids or anybody, you're trying in your life to do things and they get in your way. It's like, I love you, but you got to get the hell out of my way. I have things to do and lots of stuff to do, and there'll be time later. But he reworded that is, I love you, but you got to get the hell out of my life. And his idea in this thing was the time just wasn't right he was visualizing it differently. The time wasn't right in their life to be with this person. And the song wasn't really about a person. It was really about a dog or kids, but he visualized it different. And then with him, it was like, oh, you got to get hell out of my life now. I got things that got to get done. If it's meant to be, we'll get together later on. It's okay, but that wasn't the meaning of my song. And then there's a song I wrote, which was originally it was called Iron Horse Cowboy. And I think that's what I released it as. And it was actually a motorcycle song.
Huh.
But he took a bunch of the motorcycle stuff out. And the times he does mention a motorcycle, he changed it to scooter. Now, mind you, he is an older man who has played with lots of greats in the day, including the Beatles and stuff. And it's like, but to him, a motorcycle and a scooter, I think, is the same thing. But today, that does not have the same connotation. So you listen to the song and you're like, oh, it's just, it's just not what I was after. But I have a song out there that's with a gentleman, last name is Gray. And I think it's Crazy John Carrots and Gray. And that one blues song, it's a blues man. He was a British singer, songwriter that was also living in Tokyo. And the way I got involved with him is I was one of the minor producers on his album. So I got to have him look at the song, which I supposedly ended up on the album, on the record, but I haven't been able to find it. But he's over in Tokyo. but I do have it up with under my name, and that is the one song I can say really is how I visualize it. He got it. He's a good musician. He has a good voice. I mean, but it is hard, and in this day and age, people have a vision of what they revision your vision, and it becomes very difficult not to have that happen. And
Yeah.
then sometimes they will talk about how your stuff isn't that good, and it's like you look at them like, maybe if you would follow the original vision and not have shifted it, but that's an argument for another day. So I don't want you to tell us too much about your documentary movie or your trilogy, because I want people to get out there and see it. But you don't know where it's going to be yet. I mean,
Yeah.
even Netflix these days takes some movies. Amazon takes movies. We talked about people we know that are on those. Some of the horrible movies. I mean, some of the interesting movies I've done. Let me put that way. I shouldn't say horrible. I like the odd and unique. I like to be involved in the odd and unique projects, to be honest with you. But there's a lot of stuff that gets out there now that it's nice. And hopefully people can do it. Maybe we can do it back around, or I can mention it to people when it's out. I usually do a daily vlog, and yesterday's was pretty bad. But
Oh, good.
so that's your main project right now. How long has this taken you to work on?
Let's see. I think I started filming about 3 years ago. I mean, just like a little bit with some of the main people. And then last year, really filming. And this year, I haven't had to really film. So last year was a big part of the filming, and where, we had some high ups because always, I mean, I think everybody in this documentary, I mean, literally, I was saying to you a little bit before we went on, this thing has had a life of its own. It has brought people to it. Like, I didn't go look for these people. They just have come to help this mission. It's been amazing.
See, that's a synchronicity that shows that it was meant to happen.
I know it. I know it's always, I mean, it's always been, well, part of it has been because I'm an actual communicator. I mean, I see spirit. That's part of my work. And that's been a journey in itself because, I think before what happened here, I was really, even though I was born and raised, in a Christian family, but when the accidents happened to me, and I went into a holistic world of medical people, and the accidents changed my being. I mean, I was given a gift of sight. I was given a gift to be able to see into the body, which, that used to be what was my deal, so it's weird how you go into levels of your life, and like that used to be really big. And then all of a sudden everybody kind of knows me as this person that has a show on YouTube, and this person is interviewing people. So in a way, I'm still doing everything I used to do. I still work on people. I have my private practice. The doctor retired last year in April, so I now have a private practice. And so part of my abilities is to be able to see spirit, and whether that's good or not, some people don't think that's a good thing. Well, it's what happened to me. It's not like I planned it. It's just what happened. I did not die, and somehow I was given this ability. And so my gift to work on people, which I kind of did undercover, I mean, it wasn't always talked about at the medical office, but people knew it. And I had a lot of clients. So I still have a lot of clients that I work with from all over this country, and I work remotely. So that's part of why I know that this was meant to be, because they communicated with me here that there was things to uncover. And I always knew that. From the second I got here, it's like you felt that, you knew it. And it's always been part of the journey to figure it out. And it almost killed us. I mean, it literally almost killed me. So, and we almost did leave. So it's just, I think it's a miracle. I think God, that's why I transitioned like from what I was then after gaining these abilities to seeing what God actually did here with us. I mean, on our property. It is a miracle. And I believe that's the actual story. I mean, part of the big story is that, because if anybody, you know, if anybody like me, like what I've lived through and seen and done, and then all of a sudden it goes to completely different ending with God, it's pretty, it's something I want to sing to the world. It's something I want to shout out to people for them to see. And
well, I think something that people forget, like you said about people when you're doing different things, and I think
yeah,
when you're a creative person and you have a creative spirit and soul, I think there's a lot of things that lead you into and you do. It doesn't
yeah,
just limit you in one area. And I
right,
think that's what people forget. You see a lot of people out there that are creatives and spiritually creative too. And they're into more than just one thing or another. They might write books and do music and do this and do that. But you know, the creativeness you can channel in many different ways usually. You know, and
exactly.
I
Yeah,
think that's what people forget. It's not just, you know, people that have an idea for music, they usually have ideas for other things too. That's where the music comes from too. I mean,
yeah.
but people don't think of that, and it all interrelates into who you are, you know, and how it comes out. It's
And you know,
I
yeah,
think
and you know,
art is like showing someone your soul.
yeah. I never in a million years would I have ever thought. I mean, I would walk by computers and they would blow up. That's how, I mean, so for me to have been like, I think it was this gift to
So
do
that
this
explains why this
documentary.
laptop here isn't working. That explains no.
Exactly. But it's like, it's just when I look back and I think, how did I actually learn to do this? And actually, I love it. I love that. I love filming. I love editing. I love it so much. It has been like I mean, it's just been amazing to be able to learn this whole brand new thing that I never expected to be able to do. I always let somebody else do that somebody else was supposed to do that, you know?
But
And the
then you're
one
at
thing
their mercy, you know.
I know, so that was always a part of me. I'm always like, I didn't like that. Like one time, well, not just one time, but many times I would write my song and I play guitar and I sing and I would take it to the producer and, you know, then they get to make the music. So it was never what I really wanted it to be exactly.
Hmm.
Some of it was really great, right? Some of it was really great and my song was really great. I actually won, I think 6 ASCAP songwriting awards when we were sending them out to ASCAP. So, I mean, I always knew that was like, well, I'm doing something right to win these awards, especially with ASCAP. But when I got to put my band together, that was great because then it was more like my music. But then again, it also became the music of the people in the band. I have recently released a lot of the music from my bands, which we played a lot of covers and we played a lot of my songs too. But so they're on my YouTube and they're actually released and they do very well. I mean, like I was looking last night, I'm like, oh my God, look how many people are actually listening to this. Like How to the Rising Sun. I love that song and Wanted Dead or Alive. Those were songs that we covered that I sang. And so that was interesting to be able to create a brand new music video to that, which I enjoyed very much. So everything, if you look at those songs, that's like me singing with my band, but I created this brand new video, which to me is like where I am now and how I see the House of the Rising Sun. When I used to sing that song, I had a whole different picture of what that meant. But now when I listen to that music, I see the House of the Rising Sun as something completely different. And that's why I wanted to put my vision into that music video, the music videos I do now. So the new song, speaking of the new song, I never
Yeah, I was
thought,
going to bring that up, so you led right into it.
yeah,
Thank you.
I was not thinking. I've written other songs. During the pandemic, I wrote a song called Ghosts in the Dark, and that was to my piano, with my piano. And that was right in the midst of a bunch of things that were happening to our family at that time. And that song I did record and produce. I love it. It was about 2 years ago. I finished that song and produced it. So you can find that song and a music video. And that will be featured in this documentary. But I thought that was going to be the only song featured. But that's not how Spirit had it to be. Right as I just finishing up the documentary, I'm listening to this music that I chose to be the ending credits of, and I just love this music. So I'm like, this has got to be the ending credits. And I just never knew what was going to happen. But the more I kept listening to this music, it was like all of a sudden the whole song just came out. And I worked on it for quite a few months to make sure I wanted it. It was just right. And we did finally record it and produce it a few weeks ago. And it's also titled Shadows of the Desert. And it's truly about the story of what happened, but it's almost told. I'm almost telling it through the spirits' voices.
Like channeling it.
It's because there's so many spirits here that are like animal spirits that have always been a part of my life. And they have always been a guide to me, whether, I just totally believe in them. I just believe in all that. It's what I know. And so this song comes out that I'm writing, and it's truly like a little story within the story. And I absolutely love it. We produced it right here on our property. We have, during the pandemic, that was one of the things we ended up getting our own equipment, our own things set up here. So we have everything at our fingertips here, that I don't have to go out to source it from somebody else. And literally the last time I did try to work in a studio, which some of my songs, the most recent ones a few years back, I went into a studio, and the songs are very good. I know they're very good. They are good. I just love them. But it was almost like I was being told that, wait, this is our song. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, I'm paying you to work for me. And I'm telling you how I want the song. So basically, but it was almost like a takeover, like somebody wanting to take over my songs. And so I said, absolutely not. I paid for you to produce my songs, right. That's a different situation than a collaboration of two people that are, anyway,
not
it was
compatible.
it was one of the weirdest things and so I backed away. I left the songs. I didn't finish a song. But I have that song that I can finish it, that I've been finishing them now. But it was then, and that was right before the pandemic too. So I'm like, you know what? This is like a godsend for me to be able to handle this on my own. And I have a family member here that is, he's the one who does the production part. Like, I can do this, the video production and all that, but he is the sound person. So I have a sound engineer person here. And so that person is able to then, edit the sound, because that's something I just haven't, that's a lot to go in and mix sound. Oh my gosh. That one, I think with my music, I let him do it. I feel like it's a blessing to have him do that, And what's funny is we don't have like we don't have the newest equipment either. So sometimes people be like, oh my God, this is such a big production, but really, we're on shoestring. We're only on a shoestring.
I've worked with people. I've worked with people today that still are recording on reel to reels, and have the little studio with reel to reels and stuff, and they take the tapes back and forth. And there's a lot more of
Yeah,
that still going on, and some of the equipment still works fine. And I mean,
yeah,
some of them will say there's things they can do with that they couldn't do with some of the digital, and the sound is different. So,
exactly.
so that's that. I know also I saw you had something published recently that you were very happy about. Maybe you could tell us about
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm so excited because I had been notified that I might be able to be in the medium, which is something I actually subscribe to. Is it's called Medium, and so every month I read their articles, and so for it just all of a sudden out of the blue that came up that this article could be possible. So the article is now real, and it actually just came out in Medium. This is a wonderful article. It's got a picture, but it really it has links to everything, and it talks about the whole story pretty much from start to finish as much as it could. And I just think it's wonderful. I mean, I feel so blessed. I'm very happy. So people can find that article now. It's under, Shadows of the Desert, but it does have Sacred Land, Arizona too in the title. So it's out right now as of a week ago. And, honestly, I think that's what I mean. It has a life of its own. I mean,
It's all
like,
coming full circle and all together.
it really does. It just has always been that way. Like there's a really wonderful person named Brent Thomas that I had interviewed, because I started my show, I guess it's been like 2 years ago. And one of the people I'd run into was Brent Thomas, and through Kev Baker and different things of people that I connected with. And he just got the greatest voice. And come to find out, he'd already been a documentary announcer or narrator for some Bigfoot, Irish Bigfoot, and they have the movies out. And so I had just asked him, and he stepped in. He was one of the first people to step into the project. It was almost like when he stepped in, like all these other people started coming into the project. And his voice, I mean, it's edited to where it's not like just all about Brent and talking about it, but it's edited so like he's actually part of the story, because the story is based on, a lot of it is seen through my eyes as how and when I told the story to a few key people. It's very different, but it's just how it felt like it was the right thing, because I'm pretty sure you've lived a life and you've experienced paranormal yourself or unusual things at some point in your life.
Most that's every day.
Well, like when you experience at that moment, and then 2 or 3 years later you're talking about that event, it's always a little different, right? But what's interesting is I was talking to certain people, and it was reported during the times when these things were happening, or they were very fresh. So it's like you go back into time, and you see the real part of some real things that were happening. And I think I don't know, I just feel like God had a mission for this property that was, it just so happened to be me. I don't know. It just so happened to be us. And then there's stuff here that people had just left behind. They'd forgotten. Or one of the events that occurred, I'll mention, is we were on the Dead Files, and that's a television show on the paranormal television show about a psychic and a detective. It was always one of my favorite shows. The fact that I got on the show is crazy to me, but it was always one of my favorite shows because I liked how they would have drawings, spirit drawings about the things that we're seeing. Well, that's one of the things I started doing like 10 years ago, was drawing the things that I see. So sometimes you'll see, well, it's even in the documentary, there are spirit drawings. These are drawings and art pieces that I draw, that I saw, and they're part of the story. They're part of really what was here. And so I liked that about that show, The Dead Files. But anyway, it ended up that I reached out to them, and it took 3 times to actually, where it actually went through the computer. It wouldn't go through, but on the 3rd time it did, and we ended up getting chosen. And we were on the season finale in 2020 for The Dead Files. Now, in the documentary, I don't mention that because we're not supposed to be able to talk about that and anything like that. So I never mention it in the documentary. There's too much already to mention. It's like, that was just a small piece of it. But the point being is like that, when you look at us then, or you look at us before then, it's so many layers to the story of what happened. And it's like, what are the chances that, we even were on that, some of the things that occurred were like beyond me. Like, how in the world did our story get on there,
So like I say about synchronicity, talk about that a lot, and how things happen. But I think the more you see the synchronicities happen, I think that tells you that that's the path you were supposed to be on.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you wonder to yourself, is this the path to be on? And I'll use a quick example. I sold my big house just within the last couple of months and bought a small condo by the beach in Toms River, by the beach, New Jersey. And, I kept feeling, is this really what I should be doing? Is this really what I should be doing? And a bunch of things happen. I'll just go through them quickly. You go there and there is a shampoo in the closet all by itself, which happens to be the same kind of shampoo I had just purchased and have at my other house where I live. And it's like, oh, that's really a weird coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
They had a programmable door, let's say. Well, that's exactly what it was. You program your key, your number, and you don't use a key. And turned out that number was my grandparents' old home address. And it's like, ooh, and when that came up, that I was thinking about that was I was changing the address on it, the key pad, to be my parents' home address number. So, and then my sister goes, that, but the old number, she says, it's interesting. She says, was our grandparents' number. And I set the new number to my parents' old address number. But here's where it gets even more interesting. We went for pizza, okay? And the price of the pizza ended up being the exact price that was the number of my parents' address. And it's like to the penny, it was the exact price. And it was, oh my God. Let's say it was 2731, which isn't the number. Let's say that was the home address. The pizza ended up being 2731, exactly. And you're like, so sometimes my point is when you're having doubts about what you're doing, I think these synchronicities, if you pay attention to them, are actually telling you, no, you're on the right course, because that wouldn't be happening if you weren't on the right course. And so, you're having these experiences happen, and I think that's because that was the right course. And although sometimes in life, I'll say the other part, sometimes I think that you're trying to do something and obstacles are purposely put in your way. Now, I don't always think that's because you shouldn't do it. That might be making sure you prove that you deserve doing it. Like it's made that it's not too easy for you on purpose. So you learn about it, or but I think a lot of times there's things, like I said, that happen. You wonder, should I have done this? Should I have done? And then when all those synchronicities come up, and there were some other things too, but those are the ones I think of right now. But with the home address, how the pizza afterwards just happened to be the exact same number. It's like, ooh, that's really odd. But
and
so that shit happens a lot.
It's your parents too, and both of them are gone, right? They're both,
yes, and my grandparents are gone, so they're all gone.
Yeah, so it's like they're, in a way, it's them sending you a message, I think.
Yeah, and I do have a lot of stuff at the house that was theirs.
Yeah.
So we talked about the beginning of your career a little bit and what you did, and we talked about what you've been working on recently. Now let's see, well, what things do you have in mind for the future? I mean, now you did the one documentary, you're thinking about making it a two-parter. So what are you looking to do coming up? What do you think's the future projects you have in your mind?
Yeah. One of the main things I want to do is kind of get back into finishing up some music that I need to finish. I do a lot of work for animals, and we did start a 501c3. That happened recently, and so that's going to help me be able to do some things that I would like to do for animals. One of them being share rescues, share the things that are happening, other rescues and what they're doing by filming them and doing different things. That's kind of what my purpose is. And then Joe, his art and his company is Caveman Fabrications, and his art is going to be a part of this 501c3. So we really want to take the Sonoran Desert and bring it into a place where we can create art that will be sharing what is happening here in this desert, in a good way, sharing the desert life. That's one of the goals. But I think the main thing is to do the music, get some more of this music out for these animals, because I'd like to put on some shows where we can do some fundraising. And a lot of my songs are about animals, and they're really neat. I mean, they're like, some of them are really sad. Some of them are really like, they're just spirit driven. So it's however spirit comes through in that song is what they are. But the one thing we've already got set up is to do some more filming in other locations in Arizona, one of them being in the Chiricahua Mountains. And the reason that is being, it's almost like in the Arizona, there's so many amazing paranormal things in Arizona, but we're not just in the paranormal. This is also about UFOs. This is also about other people and things that have been seen here, and other people that have seen things. So this actually expands into so many topics. And there's so many locations that when the research happened, like I said, I had a lot of people involved. And one of them, we went with the tourist person in charge of tourism in Marana. So I'm in Marana, Arizona. And she was very helpful and connected a lot of the dots to what my property is connected to in these other realms around us. And so we went and investigated over the last 3 years these different spiritual meccas, places that are connected in our area. And part of those, I believe, are actually part of this story, because when you go back in time into history, all these things were connected back then through the Native American tribes, through the settlers coming in, through the history of this place, how it all began. A lot of people think that, the Wild West was overrun by white people. You always hear that, but the white people took over, but truly, if you look back, this was originally the Native American land, and it was many tribes. So the original was the Hohokam, or however people want to say that. I say Hohokam, and they were the original people. And it's fascinating that this whole thing truly begins there.
And the people also forget about the Mexicans coming up, also the Indians and the Mexicans fighting, and
so the Mexicans, then the Spanish, they came through here, and they were the very first ones warring with the Indians. And that's when then they sent in the priests, Father Kino, and then we've got the big mission. Well, there's all of that's involved. There is a lot involved because it's all here. And so when you look at it that way, there are so many stories involved in our story. So, and then the fun thing about doing this unexpectedly was when I went to find people that had experiences like us, I found them, and they were amazingly similar. And so, but then you just kind of become kindred with these people, and so through them, other options arise. Like in the Chiricahuas, there's which is also connected to the UFO line of story, and the so that I'm looking forward to possibly doing in the fall. It's too hot right now, John. It's like 107 right now.
It was in the low 90s here yesterday. I'll tell you what I'd like you to do though. You got a lot of good information here, and like I said before, I think it's synchronicity showing you should be doing it. But after we get done with this, if you could send all your related links that you'd like me to attach, like we say, down below, I will do it, because I think there's a lot of things that, and even things that are interrelated, like you said about the different tribes and mini tribes. And, there's a lot of stuff going on. And like you mentioned, the Spanish and the Americans. And I think I've thought about that a bunch. I actually am part Spanish. My grandfather's from Spain. But it was interesting how the Spanish a lot of times treated the natives different than the English did. The Europeans, well, the other Europeans did. The Spanish kind of assimilated them, where the white, what was considered the white man, they kind of fought them and put them away and got rid of them, got them off their land. Where the Mexicans, the Spanish assimilated the Mexicans, and kind of. Although I know they weren't nice totally either, it just seemed like it was an more interesting way to do it, and the way that they contrasted with each other was interesting. And and people forget, you talk about the Mexicans, and even the Indians fought the Mexicans, but yet the Mexicans had been the local tribes of Mexico before they were kind of made into Mexicans. So they were kind of Indians themselves, or what we refer to as natives. Indians was from the word India, but that's always interesting to me, But I'd like you to send me those links. I don't like keeping you too long on these interviews. So why don't we? What would you like to get out to the people that have been listening so far, and anything you'd like to tell them that is meaningful to you, or something you really like them to look in, other than the links we're going to put below?
Right. One thing I think is very meaningful to me is just this message about having faith in the higher being, higher than yourself, because that's the only way that this all that have happened. And so through my journey, I think it's really important to have people realize that, number one, they shouldn't give up. They just got to keep going. You got to, because if we would have given up, we would never come to this point, and I would have never seen all these miracles happening. Another thing I will say is another miracle that happened is through this documentary I met, and he's in the documentary, is Archbishop Ronald Enright, who is the chief exorcist, and he's been doing this for like 40, 50, 40 something years. And I love this guy. He's so cool. And I had him come in to be on the documentary. And well, it ends up that he called me one day. He chose one of my songs to be on the same song that always seems to be, it's called A Better You, the spiritual warrior song, which was actually written by Bill Bean. No, he didn't write it, but he put a guitar part in it, Reverend Bill Bean. And it was dedicated to Kev Baker, the Kev Dave Baker Show, who I was a friend of. So when you look up my music, you'll see this and understand that that's where it came from. But since then, that song it's gone from one different show to another, and now it's on the Unseen Realm. It starts the Unseen Realm and it ends the Unseen Realm. But the other weird thing is that it's my song, but he actually chose me to be co-producer of this show. So right now I'm actually a co-producer, and for about the last 6 weeks, I actually interview real people that have gone through horrible things, things that we went through, my family, and I'm actually reporting them, and we put them out to this panel of experts that have been dealing with oppression, demonic oppression, demonic possession, and all that kind of stuff for some of them 60 years. So I'm with this amazing group of people, and it's called the Unseen Realm Podcast. And that's our part, but they have
and we'll have to put that below here also.
Yeah. And then it's the Order of Exorcists. So it's a worldwide organization that people reach out to. So I do say, please look into that, because it's crazy, but there are people all over the world that are experiencing these things that happened like on this property, but it's worldwide. And so God has chosen me to be part of that. And it's just, I feel really fortunate. So I will make sure I send that link. And other than that, you can find me on the Unseen Realm podcast. You can find me on the Mercedez Lucke Benedict Show, which John was on. He was one of my favorite people to actually interview. I loved our interview.
Thank you. And the check I paid you for that comment did clear, right?
I just almost lost my camera. Yeah, no, John, you're so funny. No, but so you can find that on YouTube, and that's the Web Radio Network. And now we live stream on YouTube and Facebook every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So I'll send that link. And then you can find me on all those other links. The music is all in the music links, and you put my name in and you'll see some unusual things like therapist, healer, and then all of a sudden you're into the demonic stuff or in music. There's a lot of variety. I'm on the IMDb page for acting and stuff, thanks to our friend Kadrosha, K.O., who I met a couple of years ago. And I shout out to K.O. because I love her to pieces. She's the one who said, "Are you on the IMDb?" And I'm like, "What's that?" Because I hadn't done that in so long. And so it's neat because I was able to put all of my acting credits and all of my theater and music all on this page. So that's a fun thing to kind of look at. Anyway, that's about it. And I do thank you so much for letting me be on here and sharing the new article on Medium.
Well, thank you too. I tell you what, though, I did enjoy being on your show. And I said, what I'd like you to do is say that we will do a follow-up to this. We'll do a follow-up, hopefully after your movie you've gotten somebody to distribute that for you. And we can talk some more about it after it's out there in distribution. Blah, blah, blah. I could talk today. But I'm sure it's going to be very interesting.
I am shocked. I'm literally shocked because I started a Facebook page for it. I thought I need a Facebook page. And I have so many people that are already, I don't know where they're coming from. They're just like finding. And so I'm like, wow, where are these people? So they're all joining up on this Facebook page. So yeah, I really feel like I need a distribution company. So I'm asking for that, please.
Yeah, there you go. Well, if you throw it out there, hopefully it comes back, So, well, thank you again for being with us. And I will put all kinds of links down below. And you have a great day and have a great weekend. And I look forward to not only listening to some more of your music, I've looked for some of it and listened to it before, but this documentary that's coming out. I'm very interested in getting to see that. So thank you very much.
John. Thank you so much.